Ang susunod na programa ay rated PG. Patnubay at gabay ng magulang ay kailangan sa mga batang manonood.
Good evening. You're watching the Chairman's Report, brought to you by ABC 13 and the Commission on Filipinos Overseas. That is the agency under the Office of the President, mandated to connect the Filipino diaspora with the Philippines. I'm Dante Klink II, Chairman of the CFO and your program host. Tonight, we highlight the role of media and storytelling in promoting Filipino history, values, and national identity, particularly among the younger generation and overseas communities. As digital platforms continue to influence how stories are told and consumed, it is essential that the Filipino narratives are preserved and shared from a Filipino perspective. Joining us is Bani Logroño, a 33-year-old Filipino-American writer, director, and advocate for stories of Filipino history, heroism, and culture. Known for the Filipino story and his award-winning World War II documentaries, Mr. Logroño has spent much of his career focusing on the contributions and sacrifices of Filipino heroes. His documentaries, such as The Unsurrendered 2, The Hunters ROTC Guerrillas in Honor, The Legacy of Jose Abad Santos, have been screened in schools and universities across the Philippines and have received multiple international awards. These include recognitions from the World Documentary Awards in Jakarta, the Hollywood International Moving Pictures Film Festival, and the Canada International Film Festival. Currently, Mr. Logroño heads the Filipino Story Studio, a social media platform with thousands of followers and growing. The studio produces educational and cultural content, including the Filipino Story, the animated series, which explores key Filipino values such as kapwa, bayanihan, and kabutiang loob. Across its platforms, the studio has built a growing audience among Filipinos around the world. Mr. Logroño works closely with his wife and producing partner, Mai Logroño. Both are graduates of the International Academy of Film and Television in Cebu, and they continue to collaborate on film and digital projects that promote Filipino heritage and identity. Mr. Logroño, welcome to the Chairman's Report. So before we start, tell us about what is the Filipino story, where can one see it, and who's it for?
Right, well, the Filipino story is this current project that I'm working on. It's this journey that I've been on since 2020. And basically, it's a platform whose aim is to merge and bridge these two worlds of the Filipino diaspora and the motherland together. And we want to do that through telling stories. Stories that celebrate the beauty, the genius, and the spirit of the Filipino. And our core flagship series of the Filipino story is the Filipino Story Animated Series, which is a 6-episode animated series that kind of uncovers for people who might not necessarily know what it means to be Filipino, such as Filipinos who grew up outside the Philippines. It tries to simplify and clarify for them what being Filipino means. And when we created the animated series, we were working together with a lot of historians and culture bearers around the country. And we distilled the core values of the Filipino down to 3 core values: bayanihan, kapwa, and kabutihan loob, as you mentioned. And so this is what the Filipino story is. We created it for people who don't know what it means to be Filipino, second generation, third generation Filipinos living outside the motherland. And that's...
Well, I want to congratulate you on it. I've seen a few episodes, and I mean, I have to commend you, your wife, and your entire team, and it's very well done. In fact, when I saw it, I thought this is precisely what the CFO should be producing, but I'm glad that you guys are doing it. But tell me, is this a passion project, or is there a business model behind it, or it's just it's educational content for a segment of people like yourselves who grew up in the States and want to learn about the heritage?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything you mentioned.
Okay.
It is a passion project, but at the same time, it is my full-time job. My wife and I. So the person who's kind of funding the series right now, his name is Tony Olaez. He's a Filipino-American businessman who, for the longest time growing up, he didn't like his Filipino heritage because growing up in America, in San Diego, where he's from, born and raised, there was a lot of bad media about the Philippines.
Sure.
When it would show on the news, it would just be about the
All
poverty.
negative, yeah.
Yes, the crime and the corruption that happens in this country. And there was also, I guess, some racism that he had to grow up with during that time. He's in his 60s now, so it was way back then. And so, yeah, he didn't like being Filipino growing up, and it wasn't until he was able to visit the Philippines himself when he was already 40 years old. That's when he was able to come here, and he was able to walk through some of our communities, some of the informal settlements, and expecting to give something to the people here because he's a fairly successful businessman.
Right.
But as it turned out, as he met the people and connected with them, with their hearts, it ended up that the people here, the Filipinos, were giving him something in return, something
Right.
even more. And that's our culture of kapwa. And so his Western American heart melted, and he describes himself actually as a born-again Filipino. So he came as an
I
American.
like that term, born again
Yeah.
Filipino.
He came as an American and he left as a Filipino. And since then, he was on this mission to kind of awaken that same spirit, that same heart, to with all Filipinos in America and everywhere around the world. And he began that journey by creating the Filipino School, which much later transformed into the Filipino Story, which
I see.
is what I'm working on right now.
So you were doing documentaries before, but is this the first time that you and Mr. Elias have collaborated on a project with the Filipino Story?
Yeah, so we met during the pandemic online.
I see.
And because of the pandemic, the Filipino School, which was what he was originally working on
I see.
for this mission of his, it closed down because,
Pandemic.
pandemic, everything was shut down. So he had to figure out a new way to continue and share Filipino culture. And so video is something that, you don't have to be in contact
Sure.
physically with anyone. And so he already knows this Filipino historian, Professor Xiao Chua, who he's been working on to try and create something with him. And they were looking for a filmmaker to help them with this new project, this new idea to kind of consolidate Filipino culture and identity into an animated series. And so Professor Xiao Chua is someone that I've been working on through the World War II documentaries that my wife and I have been producing before the Filipino Story. And so he recommended us to create this project for
That's how you guys
Tony.
got together.
Yes, and so we met online, and Tony had me write the first episode, see if I can, be on board this project that he's envisioned. And so the first episode of the Filipino Story is titled "What Does It Mean to Be Filipino?" And so, as someone who grew up in the diaspora and is kind of a third culture kid and has this upbringing of living both here in the Philippines and in America as well, I wrote it from that perspective. I wrote it for someone like me when I was growing up, who actually didn't know what it meant to be Filipino, and how I would explain it to that person, to who I was about 15 years ago. And so I wrote the first draft of the first episode of the animated series, and basically what we released now is the script of it is about 80% of the original draft
Okay.
that I wrote. So
Wow.
it all comes from the heart, of course, with input from the historians and culture bearers that we work with, and from there he liked the script, and we decided to make it the full animated series. And from the animated series, it became the other videos that we work on, such as probably some of the things that people find online, the interviews we have with culture bearers like Professor June De Leon and
Yes.
national artist Kidlat Tahimik, and
Yes.
and our show with Professor Xiao Chua, Ask Xiao, where we have him answer questions that people send in
Yeah, I
all over
like
the
that.
world.
I like that series also.
Yeah.
So how many videos have been produced already, and where can people watch these?
Right. Well, so we have long form videos which we upload on YouTube. We also have the shorter form videos which you can see on TikTok and Instagram and
Right.
Facebook, which are basically clips of the long form videos cut down into
Right.
into smaller reels.
Like teasers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so the long form videos, there's about I think 18 or 20 videos that have been uploaded so far. We're actually under hiatus right now
Okay.
with the long form videos because
It takes a while.
It takes a while, and we're a little undermanned,
Yeah.
especially with the reception of the Filipino story. We didn't expect so much growth that would happen in such a short period of time because we just started uploading last year in May.
Okay.
And so we're a little over a year now, and we have about 1 million audience members
Wow.
across all the platforms
Wow,
all around the world.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. But yeah, it's the Filipino story in YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Right. Well, is it made solely for Philams, or I mean, did you find that it's catching on with other ethnic groups as well, or
Right.
what has been the feedback?
Yeah. Well, originally it was for the Filipino
Filipinos,
Americans
yes, of
because
course.
that's who
the
we
content,
are.
yeah.
And that was the
And
main.
was the aim to be to have an educational component, or more of a more of a popular cinematic offering? What?
Well, the aim was to be as simple and as clear as possible,
Okay.
but still with a little entertainment just to keep the attention
Keep
span.
people hooked, yeah.
keep people hooked. And originally it was for the Philam, but like you said, with what happened since we've published and launched, it's getting, it's capturing the hearts and minds of people beyond Filipino Americans, even Filipinos here. I guess needed that reminder of what being Filipino means and the core values that we have kept through our culture and in our hearts. And so actually, according to our data, about half of our audience is in the motherland, are Filipinos.
Really?
And so, yeah, it's fascinating and it's exciting to see the growth. And we're excited to release more videos and keep this journey going.
Yeah, you said that this was for the Filipino school. I want to get back to that later, but
Yeah.
was there maybe thinking about maybe having Netflix or something like that pick it up? Was that an idea at all, or just maybe just put it out on social media and that's it?
Right. Well, we're open to any possibility that can happen in the future. But earlier, yeah, that was discussed, whether it's Netflix or any other
Or some other streaming channel,
platform.
yeah. Well, that would be great if it.
Yeah, that would have been great. At the end of the day, though, we decided that maybe this project that we're working on has to be accessible to everyone, and so we decided to just put it on YouTube, on social media, because that's the most accessible thing for everyone to watch.
Bunny, it sounds interesting. I need to just take a quick break.
Yeah.
You're watching the Chairman's Report, talking to Bunny Logroño of the Filipino Story. We'll be right back.
Naman para sa travel enthusiast ang pagkakaroon ng visa-free entry sa ilang ASEAN member country.
Pinakabagong mga presyo ng mga pangunahing bilihin dito sa may balintawak public market.
Ng social media, there's a constant fight against misinformation.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Report. I'm Dante, Klink. We're talking to Bani Logroño of the Filipino Story. Bani, can I just go back a bit? You mentioned the Filipino school.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how this project got started. But maybe explain to us what is the Filipino school, or was it? Is it a typical school that we think of a school, or is something else,
Right.
or how do it work?
Yeah, so the Filipino school is sort of an after-school program that kids or even adults could enroll to. It's kind of like in America, people of different cultures would have a Chinese school or a Jewish
see.
school. So Tony decided to create the Filipino school where people can learn about Filipino culture and language, and it sort of started from language classes.
That's
because
fantastic.
it's hard to maintain speaking Tagalog in a different country.
Do you still remember how to speak Filipino? Or?
So when I was growing up in the U.S., it slowly disappeared.
Yeah.
Now living here, I can start to speak it again.
Right.
But yeah, that was the Filipino school, and that was its intention.
So were you part of the Filipino school, or were you a student or a participant?
No.
What was your connection?
It would have been great to be a part of it when I
Okay.
was in high school, but at that time, I wasn't part of the picture yet with the Filipino story and the Filipino school.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, like I mentioned earlier, the school closed down. Nothing was open, and Tony had to figure out a different way to get this culture out to the Filipino American community, and so he saw this animated series on YouTube called The Bible Project, which
Oh,
is
yes,
it's
yeah.
like Bible stories and
Right.
the message of scripture through
Right.
animation.
Right.
So he thought, it would be great if we could do that, but for Filipino culture.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So were volunteers running the school, or was it a business, or what was it? How was it structured?
Yeah, it's always been a nonprofit organization. Yeah, so Tony is a successful businessman. He provides graphic tees for the big retailers in
Right.
America, like Walmart and Target and all that. And so the Filipino school, and now the Filipino Story, is his nonprofit that he began because of that transformation that he had when he was in his 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you were saying that because of the pandemic, people couldn't go to public places or have public gatherings, right? So
Yeah.
this came about. So how long did it take for you guys to, from conceptualization to actual producing the
Right.
series? Walk us through it. What was it like?
Well, I'm not exactly sure when the idea of creating an animated series was for
So
him.
you came in when they needed a writer-director.
Yes. So my wife and I got on board in May 2020.
Okay.
That was when we had our first Zoom call
Okay.
with Tony and with Xiao Chua. Xiao introduced us to Tony, and we sort of introduced ourselves to each other. And from there, I wrote the first episode of the Filipino Story animated series, which kind of set the tone for what this is going to be. It's kind of a casual, friendly tone intended for a younger audience, and not, it's educational, but not necessarily that kind of academic language.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
It's not the formal
Yeah.
lecture.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like a friend telling you what being Filipino is. And so from there, he liked it and kind of greenlit the entire project for us. In the beginning, my wife and I were living here in the Philippines, so we would communicate through Zoom the whole time, but around December, we decided to move to America for a little while, and so that's where a lot of the animated series was produced and written and constructed. Although we do hire illustrators to create the
Right.
illustrations and
The animation,
yeah. Well, I do the animation.
Oh, you do
but
the animation,
Yeah.
okay.
So the illustrators would illustrate remotely. We would communicate with them remotely, and it took the whole series, which is 6 episodes, took about 4 years, and so
Oh, wow.
we just launched last year
Right.
in May.
Wow. I'm very intrigued by Mr. Elias. Were you in a way, like you said, he is a born-again Filipino?
My story.
Yeah.
Well, for me,
Did you always identify as Filipino, or you know, because young people like yourself, sometimes when you're abroad, you identify with the
Right.
culture where you're living, right? So
Yeah. So for me, I'm a third culture kid. So when people
What do
ask
you mean
me,
by that?
right? When people ask me where I grew up or where I'm from, it's kind of difficult to answer that because I've always been moving my entire life. I was born in Australia,
Okay.
and then my early childhood I grew up in Cagayan de Oro in Mindanao, but I moved to California, to America.
To San Diego
Orange County.
Orange,
yeah,
okay.
near Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So,
but the Filipino school was in San Diego.
Filipino school was in San Diego.
Okay.
But I don't think it launched until much later.
I see.
Yeah. So
So Mr. Elias was from San Diego, I assume.
yeah. So as he was going through his journey with negative media and stuff,
Right.
I was going through my own in Orange County, and growing up with the Filipino identity, I guess I didn't know why it's important. Like I knew I was Filipino, but I didn't necessarily think it was an important aspect of my identity. And so if people ask me, you know, what I am, I'd identify more as probably Asian American rather than specifically Filipino.
Right.
There wasn't really
You don't identify as Australian.
no, I just grew up there. Yeah. So I'd say that was because there wasn't really anything deep that I could hold on to be proud of that part of my identity. Like I knew, you know, we have great food and we're good at singing and dancing. Manny Pacquiao gives us great fights, but something deeper wasn't necessarily shared with me growing up while I was living in America. And it wasn't until when I was about to graduate high school, because of some immigration issues, my parents told me that I had to actually leave America, where I had built my whole life up until that point.
It's
So,
before, I guess, you reach 18.
before I reached 18.
Yeah, so at which time you had to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
What your nationality will be.
Right. And so I was devastated that I had to leave.
Oh, both your parents Filipino? Or?
Both of my parents are Filipino. We moved to America with a missionary visa of some sort
I
because my
see.
dad's a
missionary.
pastor. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And so so I left America, went back to the Philippines for the very first time in a while. And yeah, that even though initially I didn't like the idea of leaving where I grew up in America, it ended up being a great opportunity for me to reconnect and rediscover my Filipino identity. One of the first places I went to was Rizal Park, and I
Okay.
and because I heard that's where culture and history is, I guess.
Right.
And so I saw there's a Lapu-Lapu statue at that time. I don't think it's there
It's
anymore.
back.
Oh, it's back.
Yeah, because
great.
because they're renovating the whole Rizal Park.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a few weeks now.
Okay,
But it's
awesome.
in a little bit of a different place.
Yeah,
Same
right.
general area, but it's back up.
So I saw that, and I've never seen that before. I've never associated being Filipino with like a warrior or coming from this lineage of people like that. And then I learned about Jose Rizal and how he's our national hero, and he didn't fight with weapons but with words. And he used his words not to bring people down but to bring them to life. And so as someone who's kind of an artist and a storyteller who was kind of leaning towards that direction, that occupation, something I wanted to do in the future, that sort of captivated me, that inspired me. And so from there, I was able to figure out my immigration issues, and I had the opportunity to go back to America, but I decided to stay, go to film school in Cebu to kind of learn more about my Filipino identity instead.
Interesting. I just want to go back to the Filipino story a bit. So
Yeah.
is it just available online, or do you take it to different schools and have screenings there, or maybe to different community centers or something like that?
Yeah. it is available online, and
Yeah.
and people are free to share it and use it in however way they want. Teachers, not just here but abroad as well, show our videos in their classes and in their events. We ourselves don't hold screenings. Schools and organizations
You offer it.
invite us, yeah. So we're open to being invited to show the Filipino story. And usually our contribution there is we show up in person, and the students and the teachers
You give
can,
a bit of a talk.
yeah, we give a bit of a talk, and,
Yeah.
and they can ask us questions, and that's so yeah, we do kind of hold screenings in that way.
So tell us about the team that produces it, because you said that you were here because you wanted to work closely with the team, but
Yeah.
Mr. Elias is in Texas, having moved there from the West Coast. So tell us about who's involved.
Right.
How big is the group? Is it just you and Mr. Elias, or are there many other people? And what are their contributions to the project?
Yeah, so I'm the writer and director of the Filipino story. My wife, Mai Logronio, she is the producer. She kind of
Interestingly, I just found out your wife's dad used to
Yes.
work with the CFO. So
yeah, he did.
how about that?
Yeah, I just
Small
found out
world.
earlier too.
Small world.
But yeah, she is the kind of production manager, producer of everything, make sure everything gets done and
She's also
scheduled.
a filmmaker.
She's
right?
also a filmmaker. Yes, we actually met in Cebu, in film school. So we're kind
You
of
literally made movies together. Love movies together.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So
Dad joke. Sorry about that.
it's okay. I love dad jokes, but we're the core creative team, and then we have Tony, who's kind of the visionary of all
Yeah.
this. The idea came from him, and he's also kind of funding everything, because he has this commitment to
That's amazing.
the Filipino people. And then so 3 of us are in the core team, and there's a 4th member, Glenda Henyu. She
Yes.
lives in Chicago, and she's kind of the executive director.
Right. She's an academic.
She's an academic.
So
yes.
she provides the historical accuracy and all of that stuff.
Right.
You provide the creativity.
Yes. So in addition to that, we also work with historians like Professor Xiao Chua, Professor Jun De Leon Jr., and a bunch of other historians. Zeo Salazar. They kind of, and it's funny too, because sometimes they conflict in terms of priority, what should go in and what shouldn't go in the work that we do. So it's kind of my job to figure out to blend their ideas together in a way that they both are satisfied with. And so, in addition to historians, we also have illustrators from Butuan, from here in Manila,
From Cebu?
from none in Cebu
Yeah,
yet, but
okay.
our team is growing.
Okay.
We also have music composers, and so far our team right now is a team of 10 people.
Sounds great. So not only creative stuff, but also job generating for Filipinos.
Yeah.
Manny, I just have to take another quick break. Please stay tuned. You're watching the Chairman's Report. We'll be right back.
Bagong Pilipinas. Mahalaga ang kapakanan ng bawat isa. Lahat ng aspeto ng lipunan pinagtutuunan ng pansin ng pamahalaan at ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Bagong Pilipinas, PBBM, Lingkod ng Bayan. Tuwing Linggo, alas 8:30 ng umaga.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Report. I'm Dante, Klink. We're talking to Bani Logronio of the Filipino Story. Maybe I should ask you, Bani, what is your story? You mentioned you were born in Australia.
Yeah.
You lived in Cagayan de Oro, and you grew up, is that right, in Orange County?
Yes.
How old were you when you went to the States?
I was 9 years old.
9, okay. So You said your dad was as a pastor. Is he still a pastor?
Well, he's retired now.
He's retired now. So tell us, what was it like growing up, and what made you interested in writing and in filmmaking?
Well, actually, I think it was my dad who inspired me to become a storyteller, because I think a pastor is a type of storyteller.
Tells stories, yeah.
Yeah, he tells stories from the Bible,
Right.
and kind of connects it why it's important today. And so I think that's where my love for storytelling grew. I saw every Sunday he would share a story to an audience, a group of people, and they would come out of it transformed, filled with more hope, feeling inspired, feeling brand new, and I liked that transformation.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just gravitated to becoming a storyteller. And I think if you were to kind of look at the formula of the animated series of the Filipino story, it's kind of in the format of a sermon. Like it tries to tie together our culture and our history and why it's important today, which is kind of how my dad would
Interesting.
tell.
Did your family associate a lot with the Filipino community, or was more mainstream or mixed ethnicity?
You mean when we were growing up?
Yeah, when you were
I was
growing up, I mean, how exposed were you to? Did you speak Filipino at home? Were you exposed to our food growing up, or?
Yes.
I mean, how American were you versus how Filipino?
Right.
How much preservation did your family do to
Yeah.
keep you Filipino?
So I think they did the best they could. It was just that moving to America, they had to work a lot harder
Yes.
to give us the opportunities that we have when we grow up. And so they did still speak to me in Filipino and my
So
siblings.
you understand?
Yeah.
Is it Filipino or Cebuano that you speak, or?
They spoke Tagalog to us,
Okay.
me and my siblings, and my siblings, my brother and sister would speak to me in Filipino still. So I guess
Okay.
that's how I kind of maintained it a little bit growing
Okay.
up. But because they were not at home a lot of the time because of work, that's where I guess some of that culture left me. And in school and in our community, it's more of a mixed experience. It's very diverse in where I grew up in Orange County, so a lot of Chinese and Japanese and Korean, a lot of
Right.
Asians basically,
Right.
And I guess that's why
That's why you were saying more Asian American.
more Asian American, right?
Right.
And so it wasn't until I came back here that I became more aware of Filipino culture and all of it,
I
all
see.
of what we're about.
So when you were 18, you had to leave the States. That must have been, as you said, a trying experience.
Yes.
Why Cebu? Why? I mean, you could have gone to UP or maybe back to Cagayan de Oro.
Right.
Were you drawn there for any particular reason?
So there is a film school there there was a film school there. It's not open anymore. It's called the International Academy of Film and Television, and it's advertised as Hollywood style of
Yes.
filmmaking is what they teach there. So
And it's associated with Bigfoot, the Bigfoot studio.
yeah, it's associated with
And
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot does a lot of work for international
Right.
clients. Yeah.
It's sort of like an international studio that is operating in Cebu.
How did you hear about it?
I got an ad for it.
Okay.
or actually, my mom got an ad for it.
Okay.
So after the immigration thing that I was working on, I told my parents that I want to go back to the Philippines and learn more about this part of my identity. And so I think one of our friends referred her to IAFT.
All right.
And we thought that it was a good idea because it allowed me to still live in both worlds, to have that American Hollywood education, but in my homeland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Bigfoot, if I remember correctly, is in Mactan, right? So
It's in Mactan. Right?
must have been nice to grow up near the beach and.
Yeah. It was nice. And that's where, the whole encounter with Magellan happened,
Yeah.
Magellan Lapu-Lapu. So
And your wife was also a student there. That's how you met.
right, so that's where we met for the very first time, and she comes from a lineage of filmmakers and storytellers. Her dad, Lucky Guillermo, was a filmmaker or is a filmmaker. He worked on Zuma, which is
Yes.
kind of a comic book.
Yes, character. Yes.
Yeah, character that was during the 70s or 80s. But he's also a descendant, a son of a World War II guerrilla leader. So that's the reason why later on in his life he decided to create documentaries about World War II heroes in the Philippines. And my wife and I kind of took that torch on. So after we graduated, those were the types of documentaries and films
So
that we decided to work on.
the documentary in Jose Abad Santos, was that your project, or was it in collaboration with your father-in-law, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so that was the documentary that we worked on right before the Filipino story. It's called
Okay.
Honor the Legacy of Jose Abad Santos. And
Why Jose? I mean, I am a big fan of Jose Abad Santos, but what drew you to
Yeah.
him?
well, it was actually his family that approached us
I see.
and asked us to create that documentary. Prior to that, our documentaries really try to highlight these unsung, untold Filipino heroes who fought
Talk
for
about
the
a hero.
country. Yeah. So Jose Abad Santos, it just made sense. He was the acting president during World
Yeah.
War II. He sacrificed his life
Executed, yeah.
for the country, executed. Yeah, right. And so, it's such a amazing story, and I'm glad that we were chosen by his family to tell that. And until now, they're screening it all over the Philippines. I think the most recent one was in Bicol.
Right, and where can you watch that now? I want to see it. Is it on any streaming platform, or is it on social media somewhere?
So because they're still kind of going around screening it, I'm not sure if it's available online, but the organization is called the Philippine World War II Memorial Foundation.
I see.
And so you can contact them on Facebook and ask them how to watch this film.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then, what was it like being in Cebu? Because you said you had some apprehensions because you grew up since 9 in the
Right.
States. So, is that when you sort of learned about your Filipino side, or did it happen before? Because you're already sort of leaning toward Asia anyway, right? But
Yeah.
walk us through that experience.
Well, the whole learning or appreciating more about my culture didn't really begin until we started working on those World War II documentaries with my wife. Because when her dad got me on board to make World War II documentaries with him, the first one we did was about the battle for Manila 1945.
Okay.
And so it was about the atrocities, the victims, the survivors of that really dark period in our history.
Yes.
And we premiered it in the National Museum
Wow.
Fine Arts. And when people saw it, there was a group of people, the descendants of the Hunters ROTC guerrillas, and they said, we like the tone, we like the way the story was shared, but can you talk about the heroism, the victories of the Filipinos rather than our defeats?
Right.
And we were like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And so our second film was called Unsurrendered to the Hunters ROTC guerrillas. And this documentary was about a group of guerrillas during World War II who were just teenagers or in their early 20s when the war broke out, and they fought for our country not because anyone told them to, but they were volunteers. They fought for our people because they loved our people and they loved our country, and that was, I think, the most inspiring time of my life, to meet these real-life heroes for the very first time, interview them, capture their stories on video, and be able to share that through the documentary that we made. And we made that documentary in the same way that they fought. It was all guerrilla style. There wasn't a lot of financial support when we created it. But I'd say it's one of the most successful documentaries that my wife and I had made. Really inspired a lot of the younger generation when we would screen it in schools and universities around the Philippines. And for me, it was my favorite World War II documentary when we were creating those.
Wow. I have to take a break, but before we do, did it change, making those documentaries, did it change you somehow, or how did it impact your views as a Philam or even as a Filipino?
Oh, absolutely. The documentaries, it kind of showed me the true spirit of the Filipino. And I think for me, it's the spirit of a bayani.
Yeah.
Bayani is more than just a hero. A bayani is someone who fights for others, who by serving others, not necessarily through fighting an enemy,
Right.
but through serving the people that they love, expecting nothing in return. And that's the spirit that our Filipino heroes fought with during World War II. And it's that same spirit that I think the Filipinos today carry when they go off to a new land, a new country. They do that not for themselves, but because they want to give back and serve their families back home. The story of the OFW, and that's why we call them the modern bayani, right? And so that's what I discovered when I was making those World War II documentaries, and it's that same spirit that we try to share and portray through the Filipino story now.
Oh, very well said. We'll be right back with Bani Logroño of the Filipino Story. This is the Chairman's Report. Please stay tuned.
Sila ang mga hinalal ng taong bayan upang maisulong ang kaunlaran sa bayan at maiangat ang antas ng kabuhayan ng mamamayang Pilipino. Kasama si Miss Cathy Villar, ating kilalanin ang Senado ng Pilipinas tuwing linggo alas 9:30 ng umaga.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Report. I'm Dante, Klink. Bani Logroño is with us. Bani, what's in the very interesting work so far? I enjoyed talking to you, but let's talk about the future. What's down the road for you? What's in the pipeline?
So what's down the road for
Maybe for the Filipino Story first.
The Filipino Story, right? So what's down the road for us is to release the last half of the animated series, because it's a 6-episode animated series, and so far we've only released 3 episodes. There's still 4, 5, and 6 to be launched. So that should be within the next few months, actually. And along with it, we're also relaunching our website, thefilipinostory.com. And the reason for that is, we want this journey to go somewhere. After watching our videos, people often feel inspired, have this new fire burning in their hearts, and we want that fire and that inspiration to go somewhere. And so we're creating this website to kind of organize, let people take this inspiration somewhere to have real impact in the world. And so there's impact projects that we're going to be working on. But aside from that, we're also going to continue creating and producing more videos that will be available on the internet, interviewing more culture bearers, more national artists. I've recently just interviewed Ryan Cayabyab and Virgilio Almario.
Yes.
Also Rio Alma,
Yeah.
and Toym Imao, who's the son of
the national artist.
what's his name? Abdul Marie Imao.
Yeah.
And so more interviews like that, and more stories from the diaspora as well, telling the stories outside the Philippines of Filipinos who carry that same spirit of kapwa and bayanihan and kabutiang loob, who embody those core values. And we just want to tell as much of those stories as possible, because when you share inspiration, it spreads, and it's just a cycle that keeps going. And I think that's why we exist.
Yeah. Are there any plans to maybe produce it in other languages? So of course, North America is speaking English, but maybe for other parts of the world, like we were talking earlier about some of the Filipino diaspora who come to CFO for cultural immersion, like the Korean group, they don't speak English even, right? So because they grew up in Korea, are there any talks about maybe doing different versions of it, or maybe having I don't know, subtitles or whatever?
Well, for the animated series, I think we have to take care of our own first.
Yeah.
So we have the English
And then
version.
you build up from that.
Right. So we have the English version, so now we want to create the dubbed version in the 5 major languages in the Philippines, so Tagalog, Bisaya, and whatever the other 3 is. And then from there, maybe possibly we can do other languages as well, because the diaspora, there's a lot of communities
Sure.
outside of the Western world, definitely. So that's something we do want to explore. I think there was a event in Germany last year who used the Filipino story in their events, and they just put subtitles at that time. But in the future, possibly we could dub it in German and these other languages as well.
Fantastic. You were saying earlier that the Filipino school, part of it or part of the offering was to teach Filipino.
Yeah.
Is that something that's going to continue in the future? Maybe I don't know, with a video series or maybe some instructional material.
Right.
Is there any talk about that? Or?
Yeah. Actually,
for the diaspora. Right?
yeah. One of the things that we keep hearing from professors and historians is that culture is learned and embodied through our language, and actually we have a very beautiful language, especially when you see some of our reels with Professor June De Leon, where
Yes.
he breaks down that in our language, our spirit and our culture of togetherness is found there in the way that we communicate. And there is nothing formally planned right now for a language teaching-oriented
Right.
series, but it is very fascinating, and we're open to creating that in the
Yeah,
future.
I love his talk on what is a Filipino. It's interesting, and I don't know if you ever thought about that. What does it mean to be a Filipino to you?
Well, to me, and the message that we share in the Filipino story, the Filipino is someone who shares, cares, and loves with our core values of kapwa, bayanihan, and kabutiang loob. We are one of the most highly relational cultures in the world. I think that's who God created us to be,
Yeah.
and that's why we're often found as some of the best in nursing and caregiving, but apart from that, beyond those things, our spirit of togetherness is found in all aspects, in artists even. Catherine de Gia, who wrote Kapwa and is the wife of national artist Kidlat Tahimik, she told us that in Germany, artists would kind of hide their techniques from other artists because the Western culture is just more that way. But here in the Philippines, she's observed that the Filipino artists would share as much as they can to other artists because we just have that.
That's just our
Yeah, we're just
culture.
sharing culture. We want to share with each other as much as possible because that's what we believe in. That's the spirit of bayanihan. It's bayanis being bayanis to each other. And so that's what I think being Filipino is being part of this very communal, very together type of culture and people.
I'm a bit more basic. I like eating. So is there anything planned for food? Because when you talk about Filipino culture, food is a pretty interesting topic. And I've noticed that Filipino cuisine has been getting some attention,
Yeah.
not just in the States, but in other places. I don't know, did you grow up eating Filipino cuisine? Or because I know some of my cousins in the States, they tend to look down on, the tuyo or something smelly, or the bagong or something like that. But I don't know. But for me, it can be like film. It could be the entry point,
Right.
right, to learning more about our Filipino heritage.
Yeah, no, I love Filipino food. Growing up, I love my mom's cooking, adobo and the dried fish, and even the way we cook spaghetti. I've always
Sweet.
I love that. Yeah, sweet and full of sugar. So yeah, I love Filipino food, and with the Filipino story, it's something that we haven't touched on yet. We have a little bit. You know, Prof. June has shared through our platform that Filipino food is there's no recipe for for just one person. It's always 6 to 8 people because we're people that likes to share, and it's that Bayanihan spirit once again. But in the future, we do want to highlight more of our food culture. Recently, we just interviewed a pop-up Filipino restaurant in America called Historia. And their mission is kind of aligned with the Filipino story because they want to tell the story of our people through food, and so that's a feature that we're gonna release very soon, and we're also gonna be interviewing a lot of Filipino food historians here in the Philippines as well. There's a few lined up.
Yeah, well, we were talking a while ago before we started. You're a writer, really, but you said you liked writing fantasy. So, is there some other projects now related to the Filipino story that's also coming up soon? Or?
Well, the Filipino story is what I think I'll be focused on for a little while. But yeah, of course, I'm always thinking of what I'm gonna do after, and yeah, I'm really interested in telling stories through fantasy, through that kind of lens. So in the future, those are the types of movies I do want to create, but not just any fantasy, but still Filipino-oriented fantasy. And I was talking to Rio Alma, to Virgilio Almario before, and he was talking about how rich our literary history is. So we do have those folklore and folk tales that we can draw from that not a lot of people know about, and that's what I want to do as a filmmaker.
You should
and a
try.
storyteller.
I should link you to Budget Tan. I don't know if you've
Budget
seen
Tan.
the Trece series on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
He created that.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Very interesting. Well, it talks about mga aswang and
Yeah.
It's about comic in illustrated novels. So very interesting. I think you guys would hit it off. And,
That's amazing. Yeah.
It'd be nice to see collaboration from a creative from different parts of the world, all talking about or creating stuff about the Philippines or something related to the Philippines.
Oh, that'd be wonderful, right?
Yeah. So, are you planning to stay here or go back, or what's the plan?
Yeah. Well.
Or go back and forth?
Yeah, that seems to be the lifestyle that I've created now for me and my wife. Is we kind of have one foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
We're always traveling, but in the future, I think once we start to decide to create a family and build a family, we will probably have to settle down a little bit, and based on our discussions before, we want to raise kids here in the Philippines in this type of culture that's all about being together as opposed to Western culture, which is more about success oriented and individualistic culture. So
Well, I have so many other questions to ask you, but I'll have to take them up with you off screen.
Sure.
But I really appreciate your time, and
Yeah.
I would love to collaborate with you. I mean, I think
definitely.
you guys are actually doing the work that we're supposed to be doing, and you're doing
yeah,
a
I think
fantastic job at it.
CFO and what you guys are doing is very aligned with what we're doing. Like we talked about earlier, your flagship programs are pretty much the same as our programs.
Absolutely.
So.
But Bonnie, before we go, you want to leave a message for our audience?
Sure, yeah. So for the people who are feeling lost about their identity, for the Filipinos abroad or even here in the motherland who have lost passion or love for how God created them, for being Filipino, I invite you guys to look at some of the work that we're doing through the Filipino story, whether it's on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, or even on TikTok. I invite you guys to watch the Filipino Story animated series and rediscover what it means to be Filipino, to rediscover our core values of kapwa, bayanihan, and kabutiang loob, and really learn about it and embody that in your life. And I think by embodying your cultural identity, it will lead to a life that's more fulfilling, and also for us as a culture, it will help us to get to a place of ginhawa. And that's the goal of the Filipino Story, is for us as a people to become one again So with each person who comes on board and watches our work, it's one step closer to our people becoming one. And so I invite you guys to watch the Filipino story.
Thanks again, Bonnie. And of course, thank you to IBC 13 for making the show possible. This has been the Chairman's Report. I'm Dante, Klink, and I will see you next week. Bonnie, thanks again.